I never imagined that a simple dinner invitation would change my life. At 47, I was independent, self-sufficient, and comfortable in my own skin. People often told me I was beautiful, family, colleagues, even strangers, but I had grown indifferent to those compliments over the years. Beauty had never been enough to hold on to love, and I had long since stopped believing in fairy tales. My neighbor Daniel was another story entirely. He was 21, young, full of life, with a quiet intensity that intrigued me more than I cared to admit. We had exchanged pleasantries in passing, brief conversations by the mailbox, polite nods in the hallway, but never anything meaningful. He was always courteous, always respectful, but there was something in the way he looked at me, as if he saw more than I let on. So when he knocked on my door one evening and asked me to join him for dinner, I was surprised. "Just a casual dinner," he said with a small smile. "I thought it would be nice to have some company." I hesitated. It was an unusual request, wasn't it? A young man, living alone in a luxurious villa, inviting his older neighbor for dinner? There were questions I didn't want to ask, assumptions I didn't want to entertain. But then I saw something in his eyes, sincerity, warmth, maybe even something deeper. It wasn't just politeness, it was an invitation to something real. "All right," I heard myself say, "just dinner." A house like a dream. As I stepped into his home later that evening, I was struck by its grandeur. It was the kind of place you saw in movies, high ceilings adorned with intricate chandeliers, polished marble floors that gleamed under the soft lighting, and floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the night sky like a painting. The living room was furnished with elegant but modern decor, deep leather armchairs, a sleek grand piano in the corner, a fireplace that flickered with golden light. There was a quiet luxury about it, refined but not ostentatious. "You live here alone?" I asked, glancing around. He nodded, leading me toward the dining area. "Yeah. It's too big for just one person, though. That's why it's nice to have you here tonight." His words were simple, but there was something in the way he said them that made my heart stutter. The dining table was set beautifully, white linen, crystal glasses, candlelight flickering against the fine china. The air smelled of something rich and indulgent, and when I looked toward the kitchen, I saw a dish resting on the counter, grilled salmon, perfectly golden, paired with delicate truffle pasta. "You cooked all this?" I asked, impressed. He chuckled, pouring us each a glass of wine. "Believe it or not, I enjoy cooking. It's therapeutic." As we sat down to eat, the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about books, music, travel, topics that felt light yet meaningful. I learned that Daniel had traveled extensively, that he spoke 3 languages fluently, that despite his wealth, he had a quiet humility about him. And in turn, I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't in years. I told him about my past, my successes, my failures, the love I had lost along the way. He listened intently, his gaze steady, his expression thoughtful. "I don't think I've ever met someone like you," he said after a while. I laughed softly. "That's because most people my age don't spend time with 21-year-olds. He shook his head. "It's not about age, it's about connection. And I feel something when I'm with you." His words sent a ripple of warmth through me. A storm begins. By the time we had finished dessert, the rain had started. At first, it was just a gentle drizzle against the windows, a soft rhythm that blended with the candlelit atmosphere. But soon the wind picked up, howling through the trees, rattling against the glass. Thunder rumbled in the distance, low and menacing. I stood up, glancing outside. I should probably get going before it gets worse. Daniel rose as well, but his expression had shifted, concern flickering in his dark eyes. "I don't think that's a good idea." He gestured toward the window, where the rain had turned into a torrential downpour. Lightning flashed, illuminating the sky for a brief second before plunging the world back into darkness. "You should stay," he said softly, "at least until the storm passes." I hesitated. Every logical part of me told me to leave, to avoid the situation altogether. But then I looked at him, at the quiet intensity in his gaze, at the way he had been watching me all night, as if waiting for this moment. "Just for the night," he added. "I promise." Something in his voice made me believe him. A confession in the dark. We moved to the living room, settling onto the plush leather couch by the fireplace. The storm raged on outside, but inside, everything was warm and still. Daniel poured us another glass of wine, but this time there was a quiet tension in the air, something unspoken stretching between us. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice softer now. I turned to face him. "What is it?" He exhaled slowly, as if gathering the courage to say what had been on his mind. "I've liked you for a long time," he admitted. "Long before tonight." The words sent a shiver through me. "I know it might sound crazy," he continued, "but I don't care about the age difference. I don't care what people think. I just know that every time I see you, I feel something I've never felt before." My heart pounded in my chest. "You make me want to be better," he said, his gaze locked on mine. "You make me feel alive." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This wasn't what I had expected. And yet, deep down, a part of me had always sensed it. The way he looked at me, the way he lingered just a little too long whenever we spoke. The fire crackled beside us, casting golden light across his face. "Say something," he whispered. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't sure what I wanted. But I knew, without a doubt, that I felt something too. Something undeniable. Something that would change everything. I sat there, my glass of wine trembling slightly in my hands, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The fire crackled softly, casting shifting shadows across Daniel's face. His confession lingered in the air between us, heavy and unspoken, like a secret waiting to be acknowledged. "I don't know what to say," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to say anything," he murmured. "I just needed you to know." He leaned back against the couch, his gaze still locked onto mine, unguarded and open. It was the first time I had seen him like this, so vulnerable. And it terrified me. I wasn't the kind of woman who lost herself in whirlwind emotions. I had been through enough in life to know better. I had been hurt before, had loved and lost, and had long since accepted that some things just weren't meant to be. But tonight was different. I felt different. The storm outside had grown worse, the wind howling against the windows as if demanding I stay. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly feeling the weight of my own hesitation. "Daniel," I began, trying to gather my thoughts. Before I could finish, the lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house was plunged into darkness, save for the golden glow of the fireplace. I let out a small, startled laugh. "Well, that's dramatic." Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. "Looks like you really have no choice but to stay now." I exhaled slowly, turning to look at him again. In the dim firelight, he seemed even more intense, his sharp jawline, his dark, searching eyes, the quiet way he watched me. I should have been thinking about how ridiculous this was. about how impossible. Instead, I found myself wondering what would happen if I stopped resisting. The weight of a choice. Minutes passed in silence, the storm raging outside, the fire crackling inside. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something, balancing between reason and the unknown. Then softly, Daniel spoke. "I know you're scared," he said. "I can see it in your eyes." I swallowed hard. It's not that simple. Why not? Because this isn't normal. He tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Who decides what's normal? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. I had no answer. Because the truth was, normal had never made me feel this way before. He shifted closer, not enough to be intrusive, just enough for me to notice. Enough for my breath to hitch in my throat. "I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give," he murmured. "But if there's even a part of you that feels what I feel, I need you to tell me." I closed my eyes for a moment, forcing myself to breathe. Did I feel something? Yes. Had I felt it before tonight? Maybe. I had pushed it away, buried it beneath years of self-control, of believing that passion belonged to the past. But as I sat there in the dim glow of the fire, in the presence of this young man who saw me in a way I had forgotten how to see myself, I realized I was lying to myself. I felt it. Deeply. Undeniably. When I opened my eyes again, Daniel was still watching me, waiting. Slowly, hesitantly, I reached out, just a small movement, a quiet surrender. My fingers brushed against his, barely a touch, but enough to send a shiver through me. His eyes darkened, his breath catching. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, deliberately, he laced his fingers through mine, his touch warm, steady. A silent answer. And just like that, the line between us disappeared. The touch of his hand was the spark that ignited something deep within me. A flicker of excitement, a flutter of nerves. I had spent so many years building walls around myself, guarding my heart from anyone who might try to tear it down. But here, in this moment, surrounded by the storm's fury outside and the warmth of the fire within, I felt those walls beginning to crumble. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I couldn't stop now. I wanted to understand what this was. I wanted to know if this connection, this pull, was as real as it felt. Daniel squeezed my hand gently, his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race. The firelight danced across his features, casting shadows on his face that made him look even more mysterious, more alluring. He was no longer the young man who lived next door. In that moment, he was someone completely different, someone I couldn't ignore, even if I tried. "You're not alone," he said softly, as if speaking to both me and himself. Not anymore. I wanted to say something, to tell him how this felt, how it was both terrifying and beautiful. But the words eluded me. Instead, I found myself leaning forward, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. The distance between us seemed to shrink, and soon I was close enough to feel his breath against my skin, warm and steady. And then, without thinking, I did something I hadn't done in years. I kissed him. The kiss was slow, hesitant at first, as if neither of us was sure where this path would lead. But as our lips met, the tension that had been building all night dissolved, and I felt a surge of emotion I couldn't control. His kiss deepened, more confident now, as if he too had been waiting for this moment. I felt his hands move to my face, cupping my cheeks, gently pulling me closer. I didn't resist. I didn't want to. There was something about the way he touched me, reverently, as if I were fragile, as if he were afraid of breaking me. It was exactly what I needed, though I hadn't realized it until that moment. I had never allowed myself to be vulnerable like this, to let someone else in, truly in. But with Daniel, everything felt different. He made me feel seen, not just for my age, not just for the years behind me, but for the woman I was in that moment. And that was something I had almost forgotten how to be. The kiss lasted longer than I had expected, and when we finally pulled away, I felt breathless, disoriented. His forehead rested against mine, his fingers still lightly brushing my skin, as if he was afraid I might slip away. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't mean to rush you, if you don't feel the same." "No," I interrupted softly, my voice barely a murmur. "Don't apologize. I didn't expect this." "Neither did I," he admitted, his hands now tracing small circles on my arms, as though grounding himself in the moment. "But I've wanted this for so long. You have no idea how long I've wanted to be near you, to be with you." The intensity in his voice sent a chill down my spine, but it wasn't fear. It was something else, something warmer, something that made my heart beat faster. We sat there in silence for a while, the fire crackling softly between us, the storm still raging outside. I had no idea what time it was, nor did I care. The world outside seemed irrelevant now. There was only us, this strange, magnetic pull between us that neither of us seemed willing to break. After a while, Daniel spoke again, his voice quieter this time. "I don't want you to feel pressured. I just need you to know that this is real for me. I don't expect anything from you. I want you to understand how much you mean to me." His words hung in the air, heavy and sincere, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen. It was as though he had peeled back all the layers I had so carefully built around myself, exposing not just the woman I had become, but the woman I had once been, the one who had dreamed of love, who had felt passion, who had believed in the possibility of something real. "You don't have to explain," I said softly. "I understand." He smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "I don't know what this means for us. I don't know how we move forward from here, but I know I want to try." I nodded, the weight of his words settling within me. The truth was, I didn't know either. I didn't know what this was or where it would lead, but there was something undeniable about the way he made me feel, something that had been missing from my life for far too long. It was like a spark had been lit inside me, a fire that had been dormant for years, and now it was burning brightly. I didn't want to extinguish it. I wanted to explore it, to see where it would take me. "Maybe we don't have to figure it all out right now," I said, my voice steadier now, more confident. "Maybe we just take it one step at a time." Daniel nodded, his eyes softening. "One step at a time," he repeated. We sat there in the quiet, the only sound the storm outside and the crackling of the fire. It felt strange to think that just a few hours ago we were strangers to each other in many ways, neighbors passing by with only the most surface-level interactions. But now, in the glow of the firelight, it felt like we had known each other for much longer. As the night wore on, we talked about everything and nothing at all. We shared our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. And in those moments, I realized that this wasn't just about passion or attraction. It was about connection, about finding someone who truly understood you, who could see past the surface and into the depths of who you were. I didn't know what would come of this. I didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something I had been missing. I felt alive.